There is a lie, repeated again and again, a theory that tries to destroy the very foundations of our faith. You have surely heard it too. They say that Jesus Christ was only a mortal prophet, a simple philosopher, and that the Church, 300 years after his death, during the Council of Nicaea, completely invented his divinity in order to control the masses. They say that the first Christians did not worship Jesus as God. But what happens when the archaeological evidence that shatters this lie forever does not come from a hidden gospel, nor from the relics of a saint, but from the mud of Rome, and above all, from our worst enemy? What I am about to tell you is not a story of saints with halos, but the mystery of a shocking archaeological artifact, a relic hidden in the folds of history. Because if the whole world understood what is carved into this piece of stone, every argument against the historicity of our faith would collapse instantly. But to understand the magnitude of this secret, we must descend into the underground of Rome, into a place where no one would ever expect to find the truth. It is the year 1857. Archaeologists are digging in the heart of Rome, precisely on the Palatine Hill, the most luxurious and inaccessible place in the Roman Empire, where the immense palaces of the emperors once stood. Digging beneath layers of earth and volcanic ash, the archaeologists bring to light an underground building, buried for almost 2,000 years. From the inscriptions on the walls, they understand that they have found the Pedagogium, a sort of college, a training school for young slaves and pages who were meant to serve the emperor himself. The walls of these dark rooms are covered with ancient graffiti, scratched with nails or stones by the boys who lived there. There are names, counts, ordinary phrases, but in one of these rooms, on a piece of crumbling plaster, the eyes of the scholars stop on a drawing. It is a rough graffiti, badly made, almost childish. And yet, as soon as the archaeologists clean it and translate the words written beneath it, their blood runs cold. They realize they have in their hands something that would force historical science to rewrite entire chapters about Christianity. What was drawn on that wall? The graffiti shows a man, seen from behind, with his arms stretched out, tied to a wooden cross shaped like a T. So far, nothing strange. The Romans crucified thousands of people. But there is one monstrous detail. The man on the cross has the head of a donkey. Beneath this grotesque figure, there is a boy, dressed in a short slave's tunic, with one hand raised in an unmistakable gesture of veneration and prayer. And then, carved in ungrammatical Greek, there is the text that shocked the world, Alexamenos evete theon, translated, Alexamenos worships his God. Stop for a moment and reflect on this. This artifact, known today as the Alexamenos Graffito, is not a sacred icon. It is a blasphemy. It is a cruel insult, an act of bullying made by a Roman soldier or by a pagan companion to mock a young Christian named Alexamenos. But here is the paradox. This vulgar insult is actually one of the oldest visual representations of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ ever discovered in the history of humanity. And its dating hides a truth that those who want to erase Jesus cannot accept. When scientists and epigraphers analyzed the bricks and the style of writing, they dated the graffiti to the end of the 2nd century, or at most to the beginning of the 3rd. We are talking about the year 200 after Christ. That is more than a century before the famous Council of Nicaea. It is decades before Emperor Constantine made Christianity legal. This is physical evidence, untouchable and carved into stone, that the theory of Jesus invented by the Church is an absolute lie. Long before there were golden basilicas or crowned popes in the mud of the rooms of imperial slaves, the first Christians were already worshipping a crucified man, recognizing him perfectly and totally as God. The author of the graffiti, a pagan who hated Christians, only wanted to mock a companion. But by doing so, he certified 2 fundamental dogmas. First, that Christians worshipped Jesus, and second, that they firmly believed this god had died on a cross. But why did the author choose precisely a donkey to mock him? This macabre detail hides an even deeper archaeological revelation. To understand the drawing, we must enter the mind of a pagan in ancient Rome. The Romans worshipped marble gods, powerful divinities who hurled thunderbolts and destroyed armies. The idea that the creator of the universe had become man, and, worse still, had allowed himself to be humiliated, tortured, and killed like the worst of criminals was not only madness to them, it was disgusting. The great orator Cicero called the cross the most cruel and terrible punishment. Moreover, a frightening slander was circulating throughout the empire. The Roman historian Tacitus and the Christian apologist Tertullian tell us that the pagans, not understanding why Christians worshipped an invisible god without statues, spread the rumor that in their secret temples they worshipped the head of a donkey. This slander was called onychoetes. The bully who carved this graffiti was combining the worst possible social insult. You, Alexamenos, are a fool. You pray to a donkey, and you pray to a criminal executed by the state. But it is precisely in this mud, in this insult, that the unstoppable power of the gospel shines. Because while the world mocked the cross, Alexamenos was doing something unimaginable. Alexamenos lived in the Pedagogium. He was the property of the emperor. Perhaps he was a slave brought to Rome after a war, perhaps a young page separated from his parents. In that place, the slightest disobedience was punished with the whip. Praetorian guards walked around armed. If you were discovered practicing an illegal religion, the punishment was not a fine. It was the arena. It was the lions. It was torture in the underground chambers of the Colosseum, which stood only a few hundred meters from that room. In this climate of total psychological and physical terror, Alexamenos could have hidden his faith. But Alexamenos was so openly in love with Christ, he prayed so openly, he lived such a different, chaste, and honest life that everyone in the palace knew who he was. He was not ashamed of the cross, even when the cross was synonymous with social shame. And the world's reaction was to bully him, to isolate him, to draw him on a wall like an idiot praying to a dead animal. But if you think the story ends here, with a Christian humiliated and defeated by a pagan, you are very wrong. Because when the archaeologists explored the next room, they made a second discovery that sends chills down your spine. A few meters from the blasphemous drawing in an adjacent room, the excavators found another inscription. Another graffiti, carved in Latin by a different hand, perhaps more decisive, more firm. Two simple words: Alexamenos fidelis. Alexamenos is faithful. Who wrote this phrase? Was it another Christian, a secret friend who wanted to encourage him after seeing the infamous drawing? Resist, Alexamenos, be faithful. Or was it Alexamenos himself who carved it at night, in the darkness of his room? As if he wanted to answer the bully not with violence, but with an unshakable declaration of love for Jesus. This is not only an archaeological artifact, it is the spiritual testament of a silent martyr, a cry of victory that has crossed 18 centuries to reach us today. There is a divine justice, a wonderful irony in the way God guides human history. The pagan man who carved that graffiti wanted to destroy the name of Jesus and humiliate a young Christian. He believed that the Roman Empire was eternal and that the church would disappear, erased by blood and laughter. But look at the facts today, 2,000 years later. The name of the pagan bully has been erased by time. No one knows who he was. The Roman Empire, with its invincible armies, collapsed and became dust. The palaces of the emperors on the Palatine hill are ruins covered with grass. And yet the insult that was meant to bury Christianity was preserved by the earth in a miraculous way. It was kept so that we, in the 21st century, could have historical proof that our faith is true from its very origins. God used the hatred of the enemy to build a monument to the truth. Today, that fragment of plaster is preserved in the Palatine Museum in Rome like a priceless treasure, while nothing remains of those emperors. Why is this discovery fundamental for you precisely in this moment of history? Because if you look closely, the world has not changed at all since the days of the Roman pedagogium. Today, there is no longer a physical Colosseum, but there is a media, social, and cultural Colosseum. Even today, if you openly declare that you believe in Jesus, if you defend the values of the gospel, chastity, the family, the sacredness of human life, the world treats you exactly as it treated Alexamenos. They call us backward, ignorant, bigoted. And the psychological pressure to make you lower your head and say, "All right, you are right, I will conform to the crowd," is enormous, suffocating. Faced with this constant mockery, many modern Christians give in. They avoid speaking about Jesus because they are afraid of not being accepted. We try to make Christianity comfortable and modern in order to please those who hate us. But the Alexamenos Graffito stares at us from the depths of time and reminds us of an uncomfortable truth. The cross was a scandal in the 1st century, and it is a scandal today, and it must be. The Apostle Paul wrote it clearly in his letter to the Corinthians. We preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. Let us transform the phrase of that young man into our own declaration of spiritual war against fear. Write in the comments, word for word, this prayer. Lord, even when the world mocks me, I will never be ashamed of your cross. Help me to remain faithful. May God bless us all.